Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Kevin Acklin, I'm Mayor Peduto's Chief of Staff, and very pleased to be with you all today. Really, today is really not about us. It's really about the community of East Liberty in general, specifically Penn Plaza. And, you know, I think back to one night in July of last year, I got a call from Ed Gainey, who said, hey, look, we got an issue. There have been a number of notices issued to a whole group of folks that they're going to be evicted from their home. And we really had a crisis underway. And so what happened was the mayor, the county executive, Reverend Burgess, Representative Gainey all got together, went out to the community, had a meeting. And then as a result of that meeting, some people stepped forward and leaders. We had a tenant council that came together. We sat around this table for about 9 weeks, every Friday afternoon for hours upon hours, negotiating directly with the owner, a private owner, by the way, who had every legal right, to whether or not it was morally the right thing to do, to evict folks from their homes. Most of these folks were on month-to-month leases, so they had very little legal protection. But under the mayor's leadership, we told them that that's not how we do business in the city of Pittsburgh, and to their credit, they agreed. So ultimately, around this table, we negotiated an agreement that provided for some time, some phasing of the development, also for relocation expenses to be paid and services to be provided. We think that's the first time that's ever happened for a private development. The history of this city in the past, where you've had public housing, it happens quite a bit. If you remember the towers at East Liberty coming down, but this is really, we held a private developer accountable, and to their credit, they stepped up and came to the table. So for today, what we wanted to do was to bring everybody together, and not to claim victory, but to really talk about where we are in this process. We think we've made a lot of progress due to the hard work of the folks in this room, and it really was a collaboration of stakeholders, residents, community leaderships, political leadership, the foundation community, all came together to work with the residents of Penn Plaza to make sure that nobody fell through the cracks, that everybody had the opportunity to be treated as a human being, to understand and work with their families to find housing, suitable housing, so that they weren't just pushed out of the community, but they had the opportunity to be part of that community. And so today, first, I would like to introduce Presley Gillespie, who's the president of Neighborhood Allies, who was one of the first people we called, when we got together, because this is exactly what Neighborhood Allies does. It works with government and the community and the foundations to provide solutions to rebuild the fabric of our neighborhoods. And Presley, if you can come up and tell a little bit of your story of what the last few months of our engagement together have been like. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Very honored to be here this morning. And as Kevin mentioned, my name is Presley Gillespie. I'm the president of Neighborhood Allies, and the key word being ally. And Neighborhood Allies was an organization that was recently relaunched about 1.5 years ago to really focus on a commitment to rebuild both the social and economic infrastructure in our neighborhoods. We are an organization that will do things in a different manner. We consider ourselves very unique in the community development sector in Pittsburgh, and that is we'll do multiple things simultaneously. We are here to help residents. We are here to help businesses. We are here to help make sure that our neighborhoods are no longer left behind, and we're honored to work with the city of Pittsburgh, the mayor's office, Kevin Acklin. As Kevin mentioned, we were called into this crisis just really a little over 3 months ago. And, we thought at that time, wow, this is a very tough issue. This is an issue that would require a lot of heavy lifting on our part. But we said this is exactly the type of issue that we need to roll up our sleeves and get involved in. These are the points and moments in time in Pittsburgh where we can't just wait for someone else to come to our rescue or wait for someone else to do it, whether that's other nonprofits, whether that's government. So we really rolled up our sleeves and we got involved, and we learned so much along the way. We cannot be more thankful for the partnerships that we built. And what we've done is we've really worked with the mayor's office, worked with the URA, worked with the Department of Human Services, Action Housing, the Urban League, the Housing Authority. Many folks have stepped up to work with us to help solve this crisis, but more importantly, look at the longer term, bigger picture. As Kevin mentioned, we're not claiming victory. We know there's a number of folks that still need to be helped at Penn Plaza, and there's a number of folks throughout our city and our region that need to be helped as we think about affordable housing issues, as we think about gentrification, as we think about making sure no neighborhoods and the people that live in those neighborhoods are left behind. So this is exactly what Neighborhood Allies is all about. I want to thank, Zach Thomas from our team, who did a tremendous amount of heavy lifting, Talia Piazza, Shad Henderson, Donnie Crawford. Some of our team are not here today, but most importantly, the partners that came together to really roll up our sleeves and literally and figuratively roll up our sleeves and get dirty. And that's what we did. This kind of work, we really needed, soldiers. And I'm thankful that we've developed a partnership with the Mission Continues, which is an organization, a veterans organization. We all know that we have a tremendous number of veterans returning to our community over the next several years. And what better group to understand trauma, crisis in a community than veterans? And I want to bring up Matt Landis, who stepped up to the plate and really brought out the soldiers to help our residents move, unpack, unpack furniture and the things that they've done, which no one else could do. So I want to bring up Matt Landis, and I want to thank, again, the partners for really, making this very bad situation as best as we could as we move forward to a brighter day in Pittsburgh. So I want to bring up Matt.
Like you said, I'm not used to, as a service member at the end of a mission, giving a press conference. That's not typically what we do. We look for the next mission, and I would suggest that that's what we will continue to do now. One of the opportunities that we saw in this as an organization was to demonstrate that the tough jobs for the city are the jobs that we can help with, and that veterans in your community are not somebody that needs the help and just the praise for what they've already done. But that we're just beginning our service. So we've ended one type of service and begun another, and that we'd like to continue to build that relationship and be a tool for the city and an asset, a resource for them to use for these tough jobs, the toughest jobs as they come up. So I appreciate them giving us the opportunity, and I hope that we can continue to see those.
Thank you, Presley and Matt. Before I introduce the residents, the tenant council, I do want to just give an update for today's purposes is to just show you how difficult of a situation we were looking at when we started this process soon after we signed the MOU. In September of 2015, just with this one building, 5704 Penn Avenue, there were 115 occupied units. As of today, all but 2 individuals have found new homes. 75 are already confirmed, have moved out. 20 have transferred over to 5600 Penn Avenue. That was the work that was part of the agreement. The residents really looked at the situations of those residents and made sure that those most in need had that homes available at 5600. There were additional investments put online made by the owner of the building to get those units up to speed. 8 are currently pending transfers to 5600 Penn Avenue. 1 is an extended occupancy for a brief period. We're awaiting a Section 8 voucher transfer. 2 are being extended occupancies. They're moving to Penn Matilda. Again, through the good work of Zach and Presley, those transfers were negotiated. 1, unfortunately, passed away in that period of time, and 2 individuals, due mostly to personal circumstances that we're working with, remain uncertain. All of those individuals signed agreements, all but 6 of those residents of the 115. These are in the fact sheet that we gave you. So really, since September to here, almost the end of February, the last day of February, we were able to systematically work through each individual to treat them as a human being. And I can tell you that the weekly calls and discussions we've been having with the tenant council and Zach, none of this would have happened without the hard work of the folks who worked hard to get to an agreement, right? And then also worked hard over the last few months to actually make sure that that agreement was materialized into making sure that each of these residents are treated fairly. So if I can invite the tenant council to come up and talk to the media about your experience, starting with Lillian. Thank you.
Hello. I think the experience was sort of uncanny. We are all residents of actual 5704 Penn Plaza, and we were sort of thrust into a crisis situation as we were unaware of what the owners intended to do with the building. At the aid of my mother, reaching out to Representative Gainey, a meeting was quickly formed with the city responding, with Mayor Peduto himself showing, with the county executive, with Representative Gainey, City Councilman Burgess, and countless others came in, and the community actually rallied behind us as they all knew that this was a crisis, not only for us, but for housing in the greater East Liberty area. So I say all that to say is that we had to quickly mobilize a tenant council, which we did. Mayor Peduto was so gracious in that he lended time, meeting after meeting, every Friday for about 9 weeks. We met in this room and negotiated with the owners. At first, we understood that this wasn't a legal issue. Legally, they could evict us. This is a private landlord that we were dealing with. So what we did was appeal to their heart, in which they did respond. We negotiated an MOU, which was published. And after that, they actually held up to the end of their MOU, even pushing past the requirements and the deadlines, allowing people to still sign agreements after December 1st, I believe it was, to make sure that every resident could receive income to help with their transfer and their move. At the heart of this was people, human beings, being displaced. But we tried to make it as easy as possible and as fair as possible given our situation, because once again, we had no legal leg to stand on. So I would like to say that the end result, though the situation started in a crisis, it ended up working out in that we were able to extend time on another building to help those people to hopefully bring on more affordable housing so that way they can still be placed in the neighborhood, as well as for those people who would be hard to place if they wanted to move, to give them more time to find adequate and safe housing. I would like to give my mother, Ms. Gail Williams, a chance to speak about the process.
Hi, everybody, and some of you I've met before and know. The only thing I want to say is that in the process of all this, it had brought a lot of people close together, and we have seen some of their problems and distress that was occurring within their home that we were able to address outside of the move. And one thing about this is that they found out that the city is for them and not against them. And we also find out that the Gumbers, even though what they did come to the table and they did help us negotiate all this because it was for them. And they came to the plate. They came to the plate and they gave us almost everything that we wanted. And the only thing I have to say is, Mayor Peduto, I thank you very much. I thank you very much. And Kevin Atkins, I thank you very much because of all the things that you have done for us. And we're still meeting. We're still meeting because we have to meet for 5,600 to get that process started for the people. But we're going to take a breather. We're going to take about a month or two breather, for us to get our air for everything to be done. Thank you.
The rehash what the first two said. We all came together, and through the help of the mayor's office, who put in a lot of work, that mediated and facilitated this process, you know what I mean? We got the first phase done. Now, we're looking forward to going through the second phase, and also brought to light the need and commitments for affordable housing funds, you know what I mean, which is the mayor's office was essential in that there. We had a lot of help from the relocation office, and the mission continues. And it's like everybody just pulled together, Everybody is pulled together. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. You know what I mean? But like we met every week, and we continue the meeting. And like Gail said, the owners even went outside the agreement in certain situations to help tenants. You know what I mean? So we're happy about the way this process is going. Hopefully we can keep going in a positive direction. But people really need to recognize how the mayor's office came together with us. You know what I mean? Was our strongest ally. And people really need to recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all, and just as a testament to the city's commitment to the tenant council, many of you have heard about the URA's RFP that's outstanding for Mellon Orchard, which is another site just down the street where we're looking to build affordable housing. Members of the tenant council are actually on that RFP committee, and we really wanted this to be about rebuilding East Liberty in a way that is engaged in empowering the people that live there, who live through the hard times and need to be part of the good times. And this is a situation where we played some defense here, right? We were in a situation where we had a private owner that wanted to move forward with a reuse of that property, and we played defense. And so we're in the midst of changing gears and starting to play offense. And we have a partnership with Councilman Burgess, who I'd invite to come up and speak a little bit about how we are going to start playing offense and making investments in several East End neighborhoods to provide for affordable housing and to make sure, again, that people who want to live and remain in a community have a place to live, work, and play. So, Councilman?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So the mayor and I are united on the goal to make Pittsburgh a city for all. That is, we are striving to make Pittsburgh livable and affordable for everyone. What you saw, first of all, in this Penn Plaza situation was the power of this private-public partnership that the mayor and Kevin Ackland led. And so you saw Neighborhood Allies, you saw the Gunbergs, you saw all available resources being brought to the table to aid these residents. These are not just my constituents, but I have cousins who live in the building. I have church members who live in the building. And so I have a personal stake in making sure that their future is secure. And the process that we have jointly established does just that. But as Kevin began to say, if left up to its own devices, the market will continue to eat up the east end of Pittsburgh, and we'll see this over and over and over again. And so the mayor and I are committed to not let this happen this way again. We're not going to just react to situations, but we're going to be proactive. It's now time to rebuild the east end of Pittsburgh. It's time to take these neighborhoods that are concentrated poverty and rebirth them and redevelop them into mixed income, stable communities. And so the mayor and I are working on an initiative to do just that. I'm really thankful on his visionary leadership, his willingness to partner with me and all of those community organizations in the East End. You'll be hearing more about that hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But we are committed to making Pittsburgh a place where everybody can live, no matter your income, no matter your situation in life. You deserve clean, decent, affordable housing. You deserve a living wage job. You deserve safe streets. You deserve good schools. And so we're going to work together to make that a reality. But today, this was a good first step to show the power of what happens when the city comes together and use all the available resources to protect its most vulnerable residents. And now we will take the lessons learned from East Liberty and multiply them across the east end of Pittsburgh. And that's just my pleasure to follow and to partner with such a visionary mayor, along with a very able chief of staff. I look forward to what the next few months and the next few years will bring to the east end of Pittsburgh. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you, Reverend Burgess. And before I introduce the mayor to address these issues, I can tell you that, lesser able politicians would have run from this thing. This is a private development. Why get involved in this, right? Because we don't have the legal rights, but that's not Bill Peduto. I can tell you from the first conversation we had about this, this became a priority of this office. Kyle Cintalapoli and I worked very hard. Yeah, Kyle's worked very hard. We stole him from the URA, and he's not getting let back. But, you know, we were given the charge to get this done and do whatever it takes to get there. And so, again, understanding political capital, we didn't run from this fire. We jumped into it. We worked with the community leaders, the developer, council representatives, as well as the residents. But none of this would have happened without the leadership of the mayor. And Mayor, if you can come up and talk to the public about that. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, buddy.
Kevin and your team, Kyle, everyone that put their time into it, Grant and the folks from Community Affairs, just being able to treat people with respect, I think was the baseline, and then being able to try to find a new solution to an old problem. None of this would have happened without the tenant council. Any other type of tenant council would have pointed out the problem, organized protests, but not rolled their sleeves up and said, hey, hand us the ball. Let us figure out a way that we can do this, and then give us a little bit of empowerment to make it happen. And you've set an example now, because every private developer in this town is going to look to Penn Plaza. And before they just say 90 days and you're out, they're going to know that there's a different process that we're going to take in the city of Pittsburgh. Mission continues. You know, I had the good opportunity to work with them down in Hazelwood as they were fixing up houses of veterans that didn't have the financial or any type of resource to be able to do so. And I got to tell you something. Most of these veterans don't live in the city of Pittsburgh. Some are coming in from surrounding counties, and they're helping elderly people in East Liberty, picking up refrigerators and putting them in the back of trucks, and helping them to be able to get through what is a crisis in their own life. And it's good for them too, because there's a camaraderie that they miss, that they're able to do it and be able to help us. And they're helping us all throughout the city. Major, thank you again for all that you've done. And teamwork. Without the backing of Councilman Burgess and Representative Gainey, this wouldn't have happened. In any other scenario, a developer would look to divide and conquer, to get the political support behind just allowing the process to continue. That didn't happen, because there's a bond now within the East End about an understanding of seeing all the good things that are happening, all the different shops that are opening in the apartment buildings and the tech companies, but understanding there's a whole other part of the East End that doesn't have a connection to that. And they weathered the storm in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s. And our goal is to make sure that they get to be a beneficiary of all the good things that are happening now. So we're not here to celebrate. Far from it. We were able to dodge a bullet, and there will be probably a couple others that will happen. But in this process of these past 9 months, we were able to put together a plan to be able to help all but 2 out of 115 people, the residents. And our goal will be in the future to be able to help all. Reverend Burgess mentioned that an initiative will be coming that will be, as Kevin Ackland said, playing offense, not defense. And we realize that we have several hundred units of affordable housing under construction right now, but we need several thousand. And that will be the mission this year, to start a program together as a team, like this team that assembled to help those 115. Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, with that, be happy to answer any questions or that you may have.
You talked about the city not having a leg to stand on legally, and I think yourself and the mayor made reference to other property owners looking at this as a precedent. And I don't know if this is a question that's directed to Reverend Burgess. Do you foresee this being a benchmark for future ordinances to prevent property owners from evicting people within a 90-day span, giving more time for that process to happen?
Yeah, I'll turn it over to the Rev if you have additional comments, but Sheldon, you're exactly right. You know, we think this is a minimum standard that it was part of a negotiation that we had with Mr. Gumberg, and I see Jonathan Kamen's here representing him today. We are looking as part of our Affordable Housing Task Force to kind of understand ways to prevent this type of, at least to get some more leverage on the table. Some of that may take changes in state law. But again, going back to the beginning, there was not a legal basis for us to do anything. And I think that that's a testament to the team that's here at the table, as well as to Mr. Gumberg and his team, that we're willing to come together and set that precedent. And that is a precedent we'll hold other developers in the future to, that when you're coming into a neighborhood and in fact, attempting to displace folks, we're going to expect that certain level of commitment, financially and otherwise.
What must happen legally to hold them to that standard?
Yeah, I think that's, again, something we're looking at as part of our Affordable Housing Task Force, which we hope within the next 6 months will come out with some recommendation. Rev, you've been involved in that, and if you have some additional thoughts?
Sure. I think there's twofold. I think there's two ways to do this. You're talking about legislation, but I also think that one of the things that we've been doing is we've been strategically looking, at least in the East End, at what the future problem areas may be. So we have actually categorized all of the at-risk units in the east end of Pittsburgh. And so part of the solution will be to buy them and to lock them into long-term affordability. So again, as the mayor said, we're not just going to play defense. We're not just going to ask developers to do the right thing. We're going to proactively protect residents. The goal will be is to hold every current resident harmless. As the east end grows, they have a place to be.
And I think just to add to that, the best way to avoid being displaced is to own your home. And that's obviously one of the strategies that we're looking at. The mayor has a proposal in front of HUD that some of you've written about that talks about how do we convert Section 8 vouchers to a revenue stream that can convert homes that folks can buy. And there is a disparity in the city right now between home ownership between African Americans and white neighborhoods. That's something that we're actively trying to address as part of our efforts here as an administration.
Kevin, isn't this a result, though, of your own policies in support of economic development? I mean, people look at East Liberty, but look at any of the neighborhoods. Lawrenceville, the tremendous changes that have occurred, a lot of it changes that you folks have advocated for. Isn't this just a consequence of the very policies that you're advocating?
Well, John,
how do you reach that balance?
You've been here for a long time. You remember what East Liberty was like 20 years ago, where you had people dying in the streets and you had people being pushed out not because of economic growth, but because of disinvestment, because of crime. And that's something that we're looking to reverse. The initiative that the mayor is talking about with Reverend Burgess is about investing in these neighborhoods. Some of these neighborhoods haven't seen investment for multi-generations. And so, growth is not a bad thing. But if there's balance, if you're not only just growing in market rate development, but you're being affirmatively in your investment in affordable housing, then that creates the kind of synergy that people can continue to afford to live. Cities like Boston and San Francisco, regular people can't afford to live in the city proper. That's not what we want for the city of Pittsburgh, and that's not what our leadership here, on both sides of this hallway, with the mayor and our council leadership, want to see that type of balanced investment.
Mayor, can you speak to that too? Because, some people say you're Googleizing East Liberty.
I don't know if Googleizing is a word yet. But no, I had the opportunity back in the 90s, 1996, 1998, to work on the first East Liberty development plan. It was a master plan that went for 2 years in the community and built out this vision of where and what the neighbors wanted to see. A lot of it was based on primarily the threat of violent crime. When Kevin says people are dying in the street, that was literally happening on Broad Street. We had a heroin epidemic that was on top of the crack epidemic that was happening in the 90s, and places like Walsh's Bar were used as distributions point. But you also had, at the same time, all of the businesses leaving. So there was a plan to bring in new businesses as well. And it wasn't for several years later that you first saw Whole Foods move in. And when Whole Foods moved in, it moved into an area that was an abandoned parking lot, an abandoned taxi cab company, and an active car wash. So there was no displacement. People weren't being pushed out for Whole Foods to move in. And in fact, the development where Mercedes is doing now was an indoor tennis facility that was used mainly for people from Fox Chapel and Squirrel Hill and Shadyside. So you weren't pushing people out. Where you start to see the pressure now is that with the market raising the rates, people who rent in places like East Liberty and in Garfield and soon in Larimer are going to start to see their rents go up. So we have to do two things. Number one, we have to build simultaneously new units of housing that we can control to be able to keep the rent at a rate where people can stay. And secondly, we have to break that cycle. So we have to be able to create a program where people can own their own home. And when we look at communities like Homewood and in the East Hills and in Lincoln, Leamington and in Belmar, we have all this wonderful housing stock. All these homes that were built the same time the homes in Point Breeze and Squirrel Hill were built. And we have the opportunity to turn that blight into a home ownership program so nobody's rent goes up because they own it. So there's two tracks that we're aggressively pursuing. The one is how do we turn blight into home ownership? And the other, how do we develop thousands of units of affordable housing during the same time we're seeing this boom happen?
Thank you. If I could ask the tenants council, I just want to
Yeah,
follow up.
I just want to mention one last thing, because I get this, and then you'll read it in the comments section, in every post and Facebook. That's what he keeps telling me. But it's not government's job. This isn't government's job. This is a private landowner who can do whatever they want with it. They can demolish it, they can build on top of it, they can make it a parking lot, they can make it the world's biggest Arby's. Why are you getting involved? And by the way, no one got involved when my grandma got pushed out of her place. Well, maybe someone should have. Maybe the bottom line is they're the residents of the city of Pittsburgh, and there should be a program to make sure that there's some way to be able to help them. And to those that would argue that it's just a single bottom line of economics, I would argue that that model is from the 19th century, and that economic model has to take into effect the people that are involved in that. And one other thing, because we got a little bit of pushback from folks about a park in the back, a parklet which is separated from East Liberty by barbed wire, where kids from East Liberty can't enter into. We're going to make that into a park for everybody. And we're going to do more than that. We're going to connect that park all the way to Target and give East Liberty something it hasn't seen in the past, green, instead of all the concrete, and making that community one that's connected all the way through and seamless. When I was on council, there was no bridge between East Liberty and Shadyside. Today, there's literally 3. And we've connected the communities that in the 60s isolated that community like a moat around it. We're going to rebuild East Liberty into the entire community. And we're going to make sure that it has its identity kept intact as well as its people.
Mayor, can you expand on the plans for extending that park?
Not yet. We will. There's a lot of different things that are coming up with East Liberty. We want to see what Reverend Burgess is talking about the whole East End and affordable housing, the greening and the park, and as well as culture and art.
Kevin?
Just to add to that as a follow-up, we, through URA, had engaged a process with, that's underway right now. There's a community process underway. There was a meeting last week to kind of, as the mayor said, look at the entire vision, not just make this myopically about one patch of grass, but about how this is all connected throughout the whole community. And we have underway with Larimer Choice, there's planning efforts underway with the park, and that'll all be tied together underneath the umbrella of city planning.
Will the next stage that you're gonna be entering into now, the next Penn Plaza building, it would seem on the surface that this is gonna be even harder, because a number of your people were able to move into that building.
Well-
The building's not gonna be there anymore. Will it be a more difficult stage 2?
Well, one thing is we haven't stopped. So we've been working already with a number of those residents. We in effect bought time for that building through negotiation with the owner. We have a little more time here than we did with this first building. And so just like the commitment we had to the residents of 5704, the residents of 5600, no one will fall through the cracks. And the same process and the same level of detail. Zach, if you can hold up, I'm sure you have your chart there. Do you have your chart? Yeah. Sorry, the color coded? This is the detail that it took, and every week we would update this chart based on every human being in 5600. We're going to follow that same level of detail. We had meetings that would say, what's going on with so-and-so? Have you talked to their grandmother or their grandson? And that's the kind of hard work that it took to even get to the point we are today. And we collectively as a team are going to continue. And this is pages. This is just one building. And again, as each week, those red boxes became green boxes, meaning that folks were actually placed and, in terms of the work. So again, sorry to throw you off there, but so we're going to continue this process for the next building.
Can I add something?
You want to come up to the mic? Yes.
Come up to the mic. Could you give us your name as well?
Bob Jameson, tenant council. Yeah, through the negotiation of the second building, right? As of now, that gives you at least an extra year and a month to look for a place to stay, which, you know, and that relocation office, right, they work 5 days a week. We go through every day and check on them, and they're continuously trying to find people places to stay. But an extra year and a half is a big difference from having 90 days to find a place, you know. Plus, with the volunteers being willing to help people move, with the relocation office offering rides to like visit apartments, you know what I mean, and provide any kind of help that they need, you know what I mean. That's a big difference. That's a big difference.
When will 5704 be totally empty?
Would you repeat that?
When is it 5704? When will it be totally empty?
Well, I can't give you an exact date on that, you know what I mean, because I'm not in control of that. But like the owners have, like I said, went outside the agreement to like make it easy for a couple of tenants, you know, to transfer over to another option. You know what I mean? They went outside the agreement to do that. You know, they went outside the agreement.
I can add to that. Well, first, to your question about 5,600, another thing that the relocation folks are offering, and Zach just reminded me, this is an opportunity the next year to improve credit. So there's credit counseling to enable residents to avail themselves of other, rental situations. So again, this is a holistic approach that we took here in terms of, working with Presley and his team and Zach and others to make sure, again, it's not just about, hey, here are some places you can go live. It's really staying in touch with folks and making sure that they're actually going to be in a position to take advantage of those opportunities. With respect to the current situation with 5704, as I understand right now, there are about 13 residents who are still in the building today. There are 8 8 or 9, I believe, that are being transferred over to 5600. 8 that are pending transfers to 5600, so that's just across the way. 2 are extended occupancies to move by April 1st to Penn Matilda, which is another affordable housing unit nearby. 1 is extended occupancy. We're awaiting a transfer of a Section 8 voucher. And then the 2 other individuals whose status is uncertain, 1 has significant payment of rent issues. That individual has been offered full services. Has signed the agreement that was offered to everybody, and I believe has received payment for that agreement. Has been provided options to be relocated and just hasn't availed themselves of that opportunity. And the other gentleman has very significant health issues. And we are working with his granddaughter in particular and his family to make sure that he is placed into a housing situation that is suitable for that health condition. It's not a mission impossible, by the way.
You have found, this is a pretty extraordinary developer who, under no legal obligation, has given each of these tenants $1,600 to relocate. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Under the agreement?
Yes.
And that's going to be the model. You're going to respect every private developer in the city of Pittsburgh?
To the extent that development results in potential displacement of residents of the city, as the mayor said, we feel that we have the moral obligation to defend them and to make sure that they're being, treated fairly. And again, I can recall our first discussion with the Gumbergs. I mean, like anything, there are 2 paths here, right? We can work together to do the right thing and ultimately treat people with respect, or we can go to war. And I think that ultimately, throughout the time of this discussion, we all collectively went down that path together toward a collaboration, not just between a developer and the city, but amongst all the stakeholders of that community. And again, this is hard work. But it's just begun, and so this is a model that, we want to make sure that, to the extent whether or not it ensconces itself in legislation of the city, is definitely the approach that we're going to take for years into the future.
Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Inevitably, the question is then, does Gumberg get anything from this, from the city? What's the benefit to them?
Let me answer that. Sorry. There's an old adage in City Hall. There's two ways to get something done. There's the red carpet treatment, or there's the red tape. We're looking for partners and developers that want to work with us on a mission of making sure no one's displaced in this city, and we'll do what we can to roll out that red carpet.
Did they get anything? But did they get anything? Were they?
Other than the terms of,
Any kind of subsidy or anything?
Other than the-
Promised any kind of subsidy?
other than the terms of the MOU, which again are public, that was the deal that was cut. In fact, I will say that since that MOU, they've given more than the deal that they struck from the very beginning. This is not a sweetheart deal in any stretch of the imagination for this developer. In fact, again, going back to the beginning, they had the right to move forward with this. From a zoning perspective, they have the right to move forward with a particular type of development. And so, you know, that obviously there will be a zoning change that's being discussed right now for them to do something a little bit more interesting for that community. So no, this is not a quid pro quo situation. In fact, again, I think it was an opportunity for a developer to do the right thing. And from our perspective, that's the path that they chose.
Kevin, they get the right work.
We have a question back here from somebody else.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about in terms of the 8 additional units that are going to be transferred over to MOE.
5,600. Yes, sir.
I read that there were like 50 units available there. Is there any reason why there's only 8? I just want to clarify.
That's not the case. I mean, as I understand, and I'm speaking secondhand from understanding, a lot of those units had been decommissioned over the years. Above and beyond, I believe the MOU only called for 10 units to be available. 20 units, I'm sorry, 20 units to be available. I apologize for that. And again, some of those transfers required significant investment by them to get those units up to par.
Any other Penn Plaza questions? Does John Kamen want to get up there, John? And tell us why the landlord was as forthcoming as he was on this? They're all singing your praises.
Good afternoon, John Kamen. I'm the attorney for the developers. And what I would say is that this has really been a very transformational experience, I think, for my client, for myself, and for the city of Pittsburgh. And really to thank the mayor, Kevin, and Kyle, and the tenant council. We sat down in this room, every week, every Friday afternoon, and really try to understand each other and to try understand what each other's goals were and work through those goals as a way that we could accomplish it. What did we get out of it? Well, we certainly could have gotten more. We certainly could have, I think, reached further. But I think my client recognized that these are real people, and these are not just real people, but good people who were here protecting their families, their friends, their homes, and with the cooperation of the city, the mayor and Kevin, we decided to, maybe not do the most advantageous development, but to do what's really best for Pittsburgh. So I think that's the story that's significant about this. And again, I can't thank enough the time that everybody has put in, on a weekly basis. They've come down, we've met, we talk on the phone, we email, and as you go through the list that Kevin had, every one of us knows every person on that list and their situation. So it's remarkable, and again, I can't thank the city enough and the tenant council enough for their resources and help.
If I could just add to that, John, there are no praises being sung today. This is hard work, and again, this is not a celebration. We had an option, if we had a developer who pursued, you're a lawyer like I am, who pursued their legal rights, we would have been in a much, much more difficult situation with over 200 individuals being dumped out into the streets, overwhelming the housing of the East End right now. So again, this was a negotiation. It was a good faith negotiation that we could not have gotten here without the tenant council, who really, again, just stepped up. So, this is not a sort of a claiming of victory. I think it's an acknowledgement of what can be done when you have stakeholders who come together, all of which who want to do the right thing. And that's where we are. And again, we have a lot of hard work ahead of us. We have another building with people who are living there. We're moving forward with Reverend Burgess and others towards, an investment throughout several neighborhoods in the East End. But that's the kind of work we came here to do. I know that's why you ran for office. That's for those of us who came to work in this mayor's office. It wasn't to do the easy stuff. It was do the hard work, and it's the more fulfilling work that again I think we're starting to accomplish here together as a city.
We have time for one more Penn Plaza question. Tim, what can you tell us about the character of the kind of places that the folks move to? Are they
Sure.
comparable rents? Are they decent places to live? Are they nearby?
Yeah, so our receptionist out front is an example. She was a Penn Plaza resident. She came in here for a fair. She recently moved over, a job fair, kind of came up to drop off her resume, and we hired her. Didn't know until after that she was a Penn Plaza resident. One example, she moved over to the north side to Jeremy Farrow's development there. I do have some numbers on that. Of the 112 households that have moved, 68 of those remain in the city of Pittsburgh. With 54, is this all? Some of these are on your notes there. 54 in the East End and 14 in other areas. 23 have moved outside of the city, with 16 in the first ring suburbs, 5 in the Pittsburgh metro region, and 2 outside the region. I think both were family related, and then 20 we don't have their final addresses yet. But my sense is, again, Zach, maybe you can speak to this. Comparable rent was obviously affordability was the most significant factor, as well as living close to where they are and not disrupting their lifestyle. And again, that gap, closing the gap of was really the hard work that the relocation folks did together.
In the Melon Orchard, and also using the money from Shadyside Development.
Yeah, so on top of that, the mayor reminds me, the Melon Orchard are deep levels of commitments to the URA property that we assembled there for affordable housing. There's also a commitment that residents of Penn Plaza have priority once those units are built. We wanted to make sure that even if they were temporarily, moved out of the East End or out of East Liberty proper, that they had a home down the street. That was all negotiated as part of this development. And again, that's a credit to the residents, the tenant council. On top of that, our creation of the Affordable Housing Fund that we launched at URA within the TRID, which is going to generate dollars. And we think that's a first phase. We're working very closely with Reverend Burgess and the Affordable Housing Task Force, to really have a larger source of capital to invest in affordable housing in the city.
How many units is Melon Orchard?
Not sure yet. We have an RFP out that's currently being evaluated. I think we have 5 responses, some really great responses. We don't, I serve the mayor as board chair of the URA. I don't get involved in the RFP process. We're going to let that bubble up through the staff and ultimately be presented to the board. But from what I've heard, we're very encouraged. And it's an example for those who say there are some developers out there who believe that market rate is the only way to go. This is a situation where we did put commitments to deep levels of affordability on Melon Orchard, and we got a really robust response by market rate developers as well as by nonprofit type developers like Action Housing who do this for a living. And so again, that's another example of the type of offensive type development that our RFPs are not just going to be, hey, what can you build here? But this is what we want to see happen here in this community, and the response thus far has been pretty positive.